from building the finest diesel engines in the world to watching them disappear forever, from family firms in Manchester to corporate boardrooms that cared more about spreadsheets than engineering heritage. British lorry engines once ruled the roads of Europe, trusted by drivers who knew these power plants would deliver them home safely night after night. But one by one, accountants and foreign takeovers killed them all. These are 10 British lorry engines that drivers swore by and manufacturers threw away. Number 10, the Bedford 466. The Bedford factory in Dunstable produced some of the most distinctive lorry engines Britain ever built. The 466 cubic inch inline six wasn't the most powerful, wasn't the most refined, but it had something that mattered more to drivers doing long haul work across the motorways of the 1970s and 80s. It was utterly dependable. Built with cast iron blocks and robust internals, the 466 engine powered Bedford's flagship TK and KM vehicles through decades of hard service. Drivers loved the characteristic rumble that echoed from the exhaust stacks of Bedford lorries climbing the hills of the Lake District or grinding through the industrial heartlands of the Midlands. The engine bay of a Bedford was a masterclass in straightforward engineering. No unnecessary complexity, no fancy electronics, just solid British diesel power that drivers could understand and mechanics could fix with basic tools. But Bedford was struggling financially by the late 1980s. The company that had built some of Britain's most respected commercial vehicles was losing market share to European competitors with deeper pockets and more modern production facilities. In 1987, the heavy truck business was sold to AWD. The new owners had their own suppliers and their own vision of what a lorry should be. The 466 was discontinued, and the Dunstable factory eventually shifted away from building complete civilian vehicles. The heart of what made a Bedford truly British, that dependable diesel engine, was gone forever. Number 9. The Foden FD series. In the heavy haulage yards of industrial Britain, few engines commanded more respect than the Foden FD series. Built in Sandbach by a company that understood the brutal demands of construction work and heavy freight transport, the two-stroke FD series was engineered for operators who needed maximum torque and absolute reliability in the most punishing conditions. The engine bay of a Foden heavy haulage tractor was dominated by the substantial bulk of the FD series power plant. Its deep, screaming exhaust note became the soundtrack of Britain's construction sites and freight terminals. Drivers hauling steel beams across the industrial north or transporting heavy plant machinery knew they could depend on the FD series to deliver maximum pulling power when it mattered most. The engineering was purposefully robust. Cast iron construction, oversized bearings, and conservative power ratings meant the FD series could handle overloading and abuse that would destroy more highly tuned engines. In the cab of a Foden with an FD series, drivers felt confident tackling the steepest gradients with the heaviest loads. But the commercial vehicle industry was consolidating rapidly. Foden, despite its engineering excellence and loyal customer base, lacked the resources to fund independent engine development against massive European manufacturers. The FD series was phased out in the late 1970s as development costs soared shortly before Foden was acquired by PACCAR, the American truck giant, in 1980. The new owners utilised standardised proprietary engines that could be used across multiple truck brands. Another piece of British commercial vehicle heritage vanished into corporate rationalisation. Number 8. The DAF engine in Seddon Atkinson. By the 1990s, Seddon Atkinson represented one of the last gasps of independent-spirited British truck manufacturing. Based in Oldham, the company built rugged commercial vehicles that earned respect in construction and long-distance freight work. But Seddon Atkinson's Strato generation of vehicles relied on DAF engines from the Dutch manufacturer that had become increasingly dominant in European trucking. These DAF power plants were technically excellent. Modern fuel injection systems, turbocharging, and sophisticated engine management delivered the kind of performance and fuel economy that British manufacturers struggled to match with their older designs. In the cab of a Strato, drivers experienced the smooth power delivery and refined operation that represented the cutting edge of diesel engine technology. The irony was that these engines worked beautifully in British trucks. They provided the reliability that British operators demanded while delivering the fuel efficiency that increasingly cost-conscious fleet managers required. The DAF engines in Seddon Atkinson vehicles proved that foreign power plants could successfully adapt to British operating conditions and driver preferences. But IVECO took full control of Seddon Atkinson in 1991 following its acquisition of Pegaso. The Italian manufacturer had different plans for the British operation. Rather than continuing to develop Seddon Atkinson with outsourced Dutch engines, IVECO used the acquisition primarily to gain a stronger foothold in the British market. Number 7. The Ford 2715 series. Ford's commercial vehicle operation at Langley produced some of the most successful medium-duty trucks in British history. The 2715 series Dorset engine powered the iconic Ford D-series trucks that became ubiquitous on British roads through the 1970s and 80s. From high-street delivery vans to long-distance freight haulers, the 2715 provided dependable power for countless commercial operations. The engine was designed specifically for the demanding conditions of commercial vehicle operation, stop-start urban delivery work, long motorway hauls, and the constant loading and unloading that characterised British freight transport required an engine that could handle dramatic variations in operating conditions without missing a beat. In the engine bay of a Ford D-series, the 2715 looked purposeful and substantial. Its cast-iron construction and conservative engineering philosophy prioritised longevity over peak performance. Fleet managers appreciated engines that could rack up hundreds of thousands of miles with basic maintenance, and the 2715 delivered exactly that reliability. The 2715 series and its Dover successors were eventually phased out as the joint venture transitioned to IVECO designed power plants. The distinctively British character of Ford's commercial engines was lost forever. Number 6. The Perkins V8.510. In the late 1960s and 70s, the Ford D1000 and Dodge K series represented Britain's most ambitious attempt to build high-power heavy trucks. At the heart of this ambition was the Perkins V8.510, a sophisticated diesel V8 that promised to deliver the kind of performance that could challenge the best European competition. The engineering was genuinely impressive. Unlike most British commercial diesel engines which used traditional inline configurations, the V8.510 adopted the compact V8 layout that allowed much higher power output from a relatively small engine bay package. It provided power levels that genuinely stood out on the developing British motorway network. In the cab of a Dodge or Ford D1000, drivers experienced performance that few British trucks had ever delivered. The V8.510 pulled strongly through its rev range and provided the kind of effortless cruising ability that made long-distance work genuinely comfortable. But the V8.510 was expensive to run and mechanically complex. British operators, accustomed to simple, robust inline engines that any mechanic could repair, were frustrated by the sophisticated V8's fuel consumption and maintenance requirements. Early examples suffered from teething problems that reinforced concerns about over-complexity. Manufacturers like Ford and Dodge eventually moved towards simpler, more reliable alternatives like Cummins. Rather than investing in further development to cure the V8.510's thirst and technical quirks, the engine was phased out of heavy haulage. British truck manufacturing lost its most technically ambitious engine layout just as European competition was intensifying. Number 5. The Rolls-Royce Eagle. Rolls-Royce building diesel engines for working lorries sounds strange today, but in the 1970s and 1980s it was real. The Eagle engine brought Rolls-Royce engineering standards into commercial transport. Built at Shrewsbury, the Eagle was known for precision, smoothness and refinement. In a lorry engine bay, it looked and felt different from ordinary commercial power plants. the casting, machining and assembly carried the same attention to detail people expected from the Rolls-Royce name. In 1984, Rolls-Royce sold its diesel engine division to Perkins to focus on aerospace. The Eagle lived on in another form, but the sight of Rolls-Royce badges on working lorries disappeared. Number 4. The Cummins NH250. The Cummins NH250 was American by design, but British drivers made it their own. Built under license at Shotts in Scotland, it became a trusted engine in ERF Foden and Seddon Atkinson lorries. Its strength was dependability. The 14-litre inline-six was tough, simple, and built for long service. It started on cold mornings, pulled steady through hard shifts, and could be repaired by ordinary truck mechanics. No drama, no fancy electronics, just solid diesel power. But global manufacturing changed the story. Cummins closed the Shotts factory in 1996 as production was consolidated. Britain lost another engine plant that had become part of its lorry heritage. Number 3. The AEC AV760. In the golden age of British lorry building, few engines earned more respect than the AEC AV760. It powered heavy trucks like the Mammoth Major and Mandator and built its name on one thing, lasting under hard work. AEC built the AV760 at Southall, with durability at the centre of everything. Cast iron construction, strong timing gears and heavy-duty components made it a serious working engine. It was not flashy, but it was trusted. Drivers liked its steady torque, deep exhaust note, and the feeling that it would keep going no matter how hard the job became. On construction sites, freight routes and long motorway runs, the AV760 became part of the old British lorry identity. Many of these engines still run today in preserved trucks, which says more than any brochure ever could. But AEC was absorbed into British Leyland in 1968. Instead of continuing to refine proven engines like the AV760, Leyland pushed rationalisation and new projects. The AEC name faded, and the AV760 disappeared with it. Number 2. The Leyland 680. The Leyland 680 was one of Britain's great workhorse diesel engines. This inline-six powered countless lorries through the 1960s and 1970s, from local delivery work to heavy freight. Its strength was simple engineering. Cast iron construction, mechanical fuel injection, and conservative power made it dependable and affordable to run. Fleet managers trusted it. Drivers knew it would start, pull, and keep working. Then British Leyland tried to replace proven reliability with the 500 series fixed-head engine. It promised modern efficiency, but became known for serious failures. The 680 had built trust. Its replacement helped destroy it. Number 1. The Gardner 6LX and 6LXB. In the Manchester suburb of Patricroft, Gardner built what many drivers still consider the finest diesel engines Britain ever produced. These were not just lorry engines, they were symbols of careful British engineering, built by a family firm that cared more about quality than shortcuts. The 6LX and 6LXB were Gardner at its best. These inline six-cylinder engines produced around 150 to 180 brake horsepower, but power was never the whole point. Gardner focused on fuel economy, long life, smooth running, and absolute dependability. Operators trusted them because they lasted. Drivers trusted them because they got them home. Everything about a Gardner engine felt serious. The machining was precise. The build quality was clear. These engines were not rushed down a production line. They were built with pride, and that showed in the way they ran for decades. The sound was part of the legend too, a slow, steady rumble that told every driver exactly what was under the cab. It meant reliability. It meant quality. It meant British diesel engineering at its finest. But the industry changed. Fleets wanted more horsepower. Manufacturers wanted turbocharging, standardization, and cheaper production. Gardner's careful, hand-built approach no longer fit the corporate world. After being acquired by Hawker Siddeley and later Perkins, the old way of building engines was pushed aside. The Patricroft factory eventually closed, and a century of engineering excellence disappeared into corporate decisions. Today, Gardner engines live on in preserved lorries and in the memories of drivers who knew what true reliability felt like. They were not just engines, they were the heartbeat of Britain's lorry industry.